In Paul, I think you have started to watch Wrestlemania on television, which I have advised.
Thanks to you. But I would...
Because you must not avert your eyes. This is what is coming at us. This is what television, what a collective anonymous body of majority wants to see on television.
I love professional wrestling. I always have. For someone my age, it goes without saying that the 90s to the early 2000s was my era, full of larger-than-life characters, brutal matches, and the most electrifying men in sports entertainment, whatever that meant. Wrestling shows were my stories, and every Saturday morning on Sky 1 was reserved for SmackDown. But nowadays I still love watching it, even making an effort to watch shows other than WWE and watch them live, which is always brilliant. Every year, however, I still love watching the show of shows, Wrestlemania. It's super weird seeing Wrestlemania this year. Because of everything going on in the world, it was pre-recorded in a location with no crowd, and was split across 2 nights, which is unprecedented. And it was actually pretty good. While watching it, however, I was reminded of how wrestling keeps trying to get a larger spread on the cultural zeitgeist. Not just with their stars making the leap into feature films, but how they craft films and TV shows around their personalities. Whether it's reality shows like Total Bellas, which follows the Bella twins, 2 women who don't even wrestle anymore, or the new to Netflix The Big Show Show, which is an American sitcom starring The Big Show, who doesn't really wrestle anymore. There are so many more examples and much more crazy stuff, like the fact there are Scooby-Doo, Jetsons and Surf's Up movies, which are official WWE crossovers. But seeing all those ads during WrestleMania reminded me of one particular movie, Ready to Rumble. Now, Ready to Rumble is actually a WCW production, not a WWE one. They were the biggest rivals that WWE had back in the day, and yet this is their only real big film experiment. I say experiment because it wasn't exactly successful. It's like giving the World Heavyweight Championship to David Arquette, which they also did. Idiots. Originally my plan was to rewatch Ready to Rumble and find the gold in it to talk about. It's a film I remember watching when I was younger with a few quotes lodged in my mind somewhere.
A diamond upside down is a pussy.
But watching it now made me realise it's the worst of all turn-of-the-century comedies. With added wrestling. Ready to Rumble follows 2 sanitation workers and hardcore WCW fans who watch their beloved wrestling hero Jimmy King be cheated out of his heavyweight title by the WCW promoter Titus Sinclair, Diamond Dallas Page, and a whole bunch of other wrestlers. After they humorously express their rage and crash their septic tank, they decide to go on a road trip to find their fallen hero and get him back on track to win the title back. I don't know what it was about the turn of the century and comedies involving road trips, but Ready to Rumble might be the worst one. And I've seen Bubble Boy. The thing is, Ready to Rumble is full of wrestling cameos and appreciation of the art, but it really is an unfunny mess of a film. I'm all down for toilet humour. Hell, Dogma has some grade A quality examples, but Ready to Rumble is as good as the crap it's spewing. I was truly lost in this film trying to find something to make a video about, and then I realised something. It made me appreciate The Undertaker. Yeah, I know, The Undertaker's from a different promotion, but this film actually helped make something resonate. Now, The Undertaker is a legend. He's been in the business longer than anyone else on the current WWE roster. The man has gone from being the dead man to a biker to the dead man and back again. And each time the people still love him. What he's most known for recently, however, is that he had a long undefeated streak at WrestleMania. Something no one thought was going to be beaten. Until Brock Lesnar did it at WrestleMania 30. To those who don't know, Brock Lesnar is like if you took Thanos, made him out of fists and bad tattoos, removed all of his charisma, and gave him every Marvel superhero's arrogance, and also sometimes let him come out with a boombox. Yep. He's a man that likes to throw people around like ragdolls, and man did people hate it when he took down The Undertaker at WrestleMania. It was the impossible, and people potentially hated it because it was Brock Lesnar. It's like if your beloved fictional wrestling hero lost his undefeated streak to Diamond Dallas Page. Ready to Rumble doesn't do a lot right, but oddly it serves as a nice companion piece to The Undertaker losing the streak. Sure, it has nothing to do with the WWE, let alone The Undertaker, and it's a weird cash grab of WCW at the time. But oddly, it tells the story of the working class heroes who go to work and do the worst jobs, and then come home to lose themselves in the art of wrestling. It tells the story of people who get way too passionate about things, and idolize human beings playing a role, yet being completely ignorant to them breaking kayfabe. Weirdly, Ready to Rumble is a cameo-laden film full of talented and athletic performers that doesn't work as a comedy film, and it barely works as a wrestling film. But it tells the story of the other side of the barricades sort of well. Through watching it, you understand how an audience can feel cheated and robbed over pro wrestling. You can see what goes through wrestling fans' minds when people you thought were invincible lose. You see how they dislike the suits who speak on behalf of the heels created, You see that sort of mentality of the little guy who gets passionate over certain wrestlers. Ready to Rumble offers that light. And it's so strange to say that about Ready to Rumble, because it's really not good of a movie. But as a perspective, it's interesting. This year's WrestleMania stayed mostly indoors. Almost all of it took place inside the squared circle, but two highlights were when they decided to get experimental. John Cena wrestled through time against Bray Wyatt, and it's a wonderful deconstruction of Cena's career and how it parallels Wyatt's journey. I'd talk about it, but there's already a really cool Twitter thread that deep dives into it. The other highlight was The Undertaker's return once again to WrestleMania. It's been 6 years since his own undefeated streak was broken, but this may have been the best thing that's happened to him since. In a world that's pretty weird at the moment, The Undertaker and AJ Styles created a crazy short film of a wrestling match that included Metallica, hooded ninjas, pyro, a light show, and live burials. It generated so many silly and hilarious and badass and fun moments, and it spoke completely to the fans. For all the criticism when The Undertaker became a biker the first time, people actively enjoyed the return of this character. It's why I enjoy professional wrestling. It fills you with awe and entertainment, and pulls you out from the world. It brings you down to your base emotions of shock, joy, anger, wonder. It's the TV soap opera live theatre version of cinema for me. And I'll watch any movie that deals with wrestling to chase that thrill, to any degree. If you wanted to get a little taste, just watch The Wrestler, Fighting With My Family, and Nacho Libre. Nacho! But I'm not f***ing gonna watch Ready to Rumble again. I'm not doing it. It's an idea worse than Roman Reigns coming out last at 2017's Royal Rumble.